Next thing I got to do is build a clamp for my two pipes on the rear cylinder where they meet at the center post. So I have some 1/2 inch by 1/8 flat bar that I'm going to make that clamp out of. I've got a 1 1/4 inch impact socket, which is the same outside diameter as my exhaust pipe. And then I've got this piece, which is basically a copy of my uh, pipe fitting that I made for the two pipes to clamp together. So that's what I'm going to be shaping that around. First thing I got to do is cut put a bend, a fairly sharp bend in the pipe or in the flat bar. Just like that. Probably should have done this before I drilled the stupid thing. Just wasn't thinking about it, I guess. Okay, so this is what I figure for recontouring of this pipe here, because I've got to measure the distance here. That's 1 1/16, 3/4. So to try to get a straight line, I'm going to wrap my tape measure here. Okay, that looks like it's basically going to fit, so I'm going to maybe put a couple marks on here, tack weld it. This is how I had to jig this thing up, and I just clamped it here and here, and then I tapped it from the end till the gap was closed on my marks. So I'm going to tack that up now. Well, I must like punishing myself because I am not totally happy with this curve right here. It doesn't really make any sense for the geometry of the primary. So I'm going to try to redo this in here and maybe lengthen this and lengthen that and make them meet down here so it actually follows the contour the whole way. Put a bit of a bend in here and that'll fit. One nice thing with these metal rulers, you can bend them. Bought that at the dollar store. I buy all my tools at the dollar store. Okay, it looks like 1 inch. Stupid metric. It's 1 inch, and then this side, if I can stop moving the thing, it's 1 1/4. Just double check, make sure there's not a wider spot. A little too tight, maybe. Something's off. You know what it is. Yeah, this can't be perfectly tapered on either side. I just need 1 7/8 by 1 inch, one cut and square on the end. Can't believe I screwed that up. Okay, where's our wide line? All the way down there. Okay, let's see how we fit. You know when you hear that Sharpie lid come off. I'll tack weld this on. Now this kind of stuff can be very tricky to jig up, so here's a very simple way to do that. Angle iron, this is 1 by 1 by 1/8 inch, and then a couple of hose clamps, and then you can pull these both down tight. It's good and solid in there, like nothing moves. You can take your hammer and kind of just tap the joint tight. So yeah, it's a nice way, real quick way to jig that kind of stuff up. You can see how this corner is sticking down too far, right? So I'm gonna kind of eyeball a straight line from here to about here. That's where it looks like it sort of zeroes out. I'll trim it there and I'll find a wedge that fits. I think the wide point is here somewhere. It's the opposite of where it's touching back here, so I think it's about here. Okay, got that cut off. I found a wedge that hopefully will fit. Looks like it should fit perfectly. Might have to trim it a bit at the ends because it doesn't seem to taper quickly enough. I think what I'll do first is I'll tack weld it right up here where it's touching. I did put the level on the back edge again, back here, just to confirm that it's still sitting straight up and down or plumb. Just do this with the side cutters, maybe. That's why you never throw out your scraps. Even after you're done a project, next time you do one, you're probably going to need some of the scraps from your old project. Wow, that's pretty hard to fit. I might find a better one that fits a little easier. That one's a bit wide. That one looks like it fits. Looks like we got about 3/4 of an inch on the back side where it's touching, so. Okay, I'm going to tack this, and then I will take the pipe off and I'll finish the bottom edge. Okay, that looks pretty good for now. I'm going to have to touch this up, get this flush with each other. And this is how our fit is on the bottom. Not the best, but it's far from terrible. So you can see this here is a bit stepped. That's because it wasn't even enough of a cut for this gap. But I kind of wanted a sharper angle there. So it's hard to get away from that. I'm going to weld a bunch of this. Put a couple tacks in here and there, just so nothing can move around, and then I'll have to kind of pound things a little bit with a hammer to get them to fit where I want them to. Need a little more motivation. I don't know where my smaller ball peen went. Somewhere, I guess, in this mess. My trusty welding rod. Let's test fit that. See how badly I screwed up. Okay, and that is that. It's a little tight back here, so I might have to adjust that. I'll just cut these welds here and just move that pipe back, because you can see it's not actually even. It's actually in a little bit on this joint. Pretty soon I'm going to have to build the exhaust muffler mount, which is also going to mount this pipe. So I already have a bolt here threaded. There's no mounts for that on this side because these bikes never came with dual exhaust. But there's already a threaded hole here, so I'm planning on drilling another one, just kind of forward a bit. I just want to get an idea of where level is. I'm pretty sure the bike is level. I should maybe double check. I have an idea actually. The mount on the other side, I'll see if it's level. I'll maybe kind of go off of that for level. That is what I'm going on for level, because I think that is perfectly in line with the bottom of the frame. And I don't know if I can put a mark there. be easier if I just clamped the pipe to the frame. It's going to take some time to drill, but that's okay. That was not bad to drill through at all. I'm surprised. But it's just mild steel, I guess, so not going to be too bad. Okay, if you ever have to drill a hole and tap it, like what I'm doing on my frame, take some flat bar and you weld a nut to it. Put the nut on the flat bar. And tighten it with a couple wrenches. Hang on a sec. Okay, so I'm going to weld this nut to the flat bar. Doesn't have to be fancy, just has to be a good, tough, fairly strong weld. So I just plunged that in the snow outside to cool it off so I can actually work with it. So now I'll take the bolt out because it was just in there to hold the nut in. So I got this tap in here. Just going to run it through there a little. Get just the bottom taper part sticking out just a little tiny bit, just so it can get kind of centered in that hole. Need 3 hands for this kind of stuff. Good. Almost clamp that down. Which I do have some fender washers. You just want this nut and plate to be clamped down. You want the tap to be in the hole, basically centered. And this way you don't have to worry about trying to get your tap started. The nut will guide it through. And I've done it before, like I was saying, and it works really well, usually. So. I guess I could have put a notch on the bottom of that plate for oil to get in. Now, you don't have to keep this stuff on here the whole time. That way I can actually clean all the stuff out as I go, all the shavings and everything. Anyway, that's how you tap a hole in something that you cannot fit in your drill press to get the tap lined up straight.